that's like an example of mind over matter. You have the monks and stuff who would bend the spoons, but they would also take like the red hot metal and put it on their tongue, and it would just, when in reality that should be searing your tongue, but they are so aligned in their intention that it was just like, so that's what I'm all about, is pushing the boundaries of what's possible in this plane, not only physically but on many levels. And I'm not the only one here to do that, so things are going to be pretty radically.
I think that we're capable of a whole lot more than we're led to believe in modern schooling and
rules
history.
Fast.
As far as I literally just came from class like right before this, that's why I was late, but it's a business ethics class, and it was basically my professor was discussing like willpower, right? And like essentially that we have like controlled decisions and automated decisions, and it takes more willpower to make a controlled decision, right? But then he was discussing like by the end of the day, like you have less willpower, so like you're more likely to make a bad decision at the end of the day because your willpower is depleted. But the way to like create more willpower, he was talking about the famous magician David Blaine. I'm sure you've heard of him, right? Mm-hmm. But so what he was saying is David Blaine, he does all this crazy shit, like he holds his breath for like 24 hours underwater, like does all that shit. But like David Blaine literally said that the more pain he goes through, it's the only thing that allows him more to create and build more willpower within himself. So that's like with the ice bath or the nail board or walking across the hot rocks. It's like ultimately like doing those painful things is going to give us more willpower, and that more willpower is going to allow us to make better decisions in our everyday life. And those better decisions will then eventually turn into good habits, like getting into habits of qigong, meditating every day, being conscious of the breath. And then ultimately, the more willpower we build up, the better human beings we could be to one another, and the more loving and compassionate we could be for all of humanity.
Yeah, well, I completely agree. And the thing is, also, the more pain we experience, the deeper we can receive love. And so, the physical stuff's cool, like ice baths, nail boards and stuff, but really going deep into the emotional traumas and the emotional experiences and the beliefs and stories held in the body, I mean, you'll go through some serious pain. Mm-hmm. And a shaman worked with me, and I'm still on the same journey. I'm going deeper into my work. But I just got back from being with my family for several months, and it was like a lot of shadow work, a lot of intense situations. And he shared with me, he's like, the body will essentially, you'll just pass out. If there's enough pain in the body, you'll just pass out, but like ultimately you'll be fine. So he basically told me, like, he said, just go as deep as you possibly can into the pain. He said, you're fine, you're not going to die, and if you do,
you'll wake up.
Wake up somewhere else.
Yeah, I might try that later. I might fuck around and try that later.
So yeah, I mean, the emotions, man, go into the deep experiences, and you don't have to find this stuff, it'll find you. It'll show its face.
It comes up when you get in that deep enough state.
Have fun with it. Have gratitude for it. Be like, wow, like, look at this pattern. Like, I'm so grateful it is showing me, and for it to be there so that I could have had the experience of being a different person or interacting in a different way. Like, that pattern served you at a time because it gave you a way of being that maybe was helpful for a time. Maybe it went over its use of being helpful, but that pattern is like now the place from where you're transforming. So like, if you're now a new and better more evolved version of yourself, well, because of the polarity of like these two events happening, now there's like an experience. Whereas without going too deep into it, it's like all these things are actually happening all at the same time and time space, and we can tap into that and create from that space. But it's like that perspective, and that's the beauty of the third density consciousness. Mm-hmm. Is in higher dimensions, like experiences happening at the same time. So the amount of information you can take from that is like a little different. Well, it's a lot of things are a little different in higher dimensions, but the essential nature in the third dimension, we get to slowly process. And so we get to have like this, instead of anger being like a thing that's combined with all the other emotions, we can like separate that out and be like, oh, this is anger. And sit with that. Or we can have whatever experience we want to have, whether it's making food, we can sit with that when we're sitting there eating our meal and loving every bit of it and chewing and having all this this sensory explosion. That's like a slow, like 3D like experience, because you're right here in this moment experiencing this like very unique experience.
And it's
So
all
about presence,
it's all
right there.
perception. Because
Right.
like, you say it's very long, right? But like to us, it's very long because we're existing in that third density, which is really only what, an 100, maybe 120-year span, if we're lucky, real lucky. And that's
If we're
just a
lucky.
blip on in the universal time of eternity. And like, we get to experience all these different emotions. And I think it just sets us up for what's beyond this. And there's so much to take away from this third density experience.
Oh yeah, so amazing.
This
Yeah,
is definitely they always, like, all the spiritual teachers talk about it, but this is the hardest density to get through, but it's ultimately the most rewarding and the biggest teacher of all the dimensions of consciousness combined. You know what I'm saying?
When it's a necessary training grounds, because
Definitely is.
if you're on Earth, you're an immature soul to some degree, and you're here to like dial that in, because the creative power we have as creative beings on other levels can be having very profound ramifications. And so we're here on Earth kind of dialing in our creations and seeing that, okay, if I do this, that happens. And if I do this, okay, well, maybe I don't want to do that because that happens. And we get to see the responsibility for our creations in real time in a slower perspective experience, so that we can make a better decision moving forward.
For sure. It's all a learning experience. And like through our creations on Earth, it sets us up for, like I said, like what's beyond. Like, I mean, it takes time. It seems like it takes time to do everything when we're here right now. When meanwhile, if we were at a higher density, we would be able to manifest things into existence just through thought and emotion, right? And that's why you need to gain that wisdom through this third density experience to kind of understand when you go to those higher densities to act in love and not chaos, and kind of be able to create positively. I think at least is what we're learning right now.
Well, and the thing is, like, I feel like in a lot of ways we're learning to work with like the unconscious, because if the unconscious is just running wild, then this can do a lot of harm for us.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
unconscious is crazy. And it, like you said earlier, it really does. Sometimes you don't even need to look for it. It kind of comes to you.
Right.
And just the other night, I had a bunch of stuff that I guess was more in the subconscious region, and all of it at once came and manifested right in front of me. And I was just looking at it, and I was, listening to it, and I was like, all right, well, there's two options. I could either choose to focus on all of this, or I could choose to focus on what's all the good aspects of what's going on. Because realistically, these things are only a bother when I think about it, when I put my
Right.
energy into it. Whereas, from that experience, I was able to really solidify just, don't focus on these bad things, because there's no point. There's so many better things to focus on and put the energy towards.
Well, and we can get excited just seeing these things come up and being like, oh, like, look, there's that pattern or that trigger or whatever, that emotion, and just have fun with it, be like creative. And whenever something intense happens in my life, especially in like relationships and all these kinds of things, my favorite question is, why did I create this for myself? And I do it from like a fun, like curious place, like, like this was really intense, like why did I create this for myself? And that removes because I've been in intense experiences in relationships where you could play all like the victim games and like the blaming and all these things, and it's like, well, why did I create this for myself? And then you ask that, and you're curious, and you see like, oh, I created this experience for myself with this person so that I could see this pattern in me that rises when this trigger happened. And now I can bring that trigger into my awareness each time it comes up and redirect it. And so that person's actually doing me a favor. And so that's all the story that we derive from that experience, right? And so we can see it as this beautiful learning growth opportunity, or we can be like, oh, that person was mean to me or whatever, and hold some sort of resentment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
know
a
exactly
really
what you
good way
mean.
of looking at it, from that perspective of just not even from a negative way, just out of pure
Over
curiosity.
responsibility.
Like, why is this happening? Why is this going on? Let's get to the bottom of it.
And you know, in my experience, the answer is always pretty clear. It's just like, oh, okay, this made, you know, if there's a trigger, then it's like something in you is needed to be looked at.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, you know, look over here, check this thing out, and it's like, oh, okay, let's see what's going on with that, and then we can, you know, dig a little deeper as we process it. But
I'll find myself getting into like deep meditative states, and I've been working on a lot of like shadow work recently, and it won't even be like purposeful. Like I won't set the intent to do that shadow work, but I'll be in a deep meditative state and something will just arise in my mind. And sometimes you just have to like smile from something you don't even remember. It just comes from the quantum realm right to the forefront of your brain. And you look at it and then you give it forgiveness or acceptance or whatever it is. And it just forces a smile on your face. Like, damn, like I did that. And like, that's what got me here now, and just giving appreciation and being grateful for it.
Definitely, bro.
Definitely. All right. So we're running about an hour and 15 minutes.
Great.
It's definitely the longest one.
That's by
I
far the
could go on for
longest.
hours, man. But I do have to go soon here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe do round two.
Yeah, we could definitely do a round two. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not verified. We're not verified on YouTube yet. So we got to clip it up into 15-minute bits to throw
Yeah.
it on there.
We all know
So,
how YouTube works. YouTube.
yeah, we're watching
in my
you.
head.
All right. So we're going to call it a great pod. And I'm going to thank Eric very much for coming on
Yeah,
and
man.
joining us and
So much
Thank
for
talking about all things spirituality.
Coming out from fucking Sedona to come talk to us, and we don't even have any people watching this shit. That's how you know, that's how you know it's all out of love and joy, man. I
If you
appreciate it greatly.
come, and you know, these are powerful messages we're sharing, and the right people will hear them. I always trust that. I know that actually.
Indeed. And you spread it with love and awareness, and people will receive it eventually. So very grateful for this, and I'd love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, definitely. We'll stay in contact, bro.
Yeah, it was fun
Yeah.
dialogue. I'm happy to like come on. There's a lot we can get into, honestly.
Oh, I'm
So
sure.
much shit. So
Yeah,
much.
this
That's
is
what,
definitely a great
do this.
foundation, a lot of wisdom.
yeah, we do this all the time. Like we've just started like at the beginning of January, but like we sit on here, we try to like keep it like 45 minutes to an hour, and like the hour comes up and it's like that blew by, and like there's just so much more to dive into, and it's like all in good fun and all for a greater purpose that's bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, man.
Right.
It is all fun. And yeah, so I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you for coming on.